Picture this. You wake up with a plan. You told yourself last night that tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow, you would wake up early. Tomorrow, you would train, study, create, build. Tomorrow, you would finally become the disciplined version of yourself you keep imagining, and for a few seconds, when you first open your eyes, it feels possible. Then the resistance arrives. It doesn't shout, it whispers. 5 more minutes. You deserve a break. You can start next week. And somehow, that whisper feels stronger than your ambition. Here's the paradox. You say you want discipline. You admire disciplined people. You respect their structure, their focus, their consistency. Yet when it's your turn, when it's your alarm ringing, your project waiting, your responsibility calling, something inside you pushes back. Why? Why does your own brain sabotage the very goals you consciously chose? Why does comfort feel more convincing than growth? Why does the part of you that wants success keep losing to the part that wants ease? Maybe discipline isn't hard because you're lazy. Maybe it's hard because your brain is wired to resist it. Your mind evolved to conserve energy, to avoid unnecessary effort, to seek immediate rewards. In ancient environments, that wiring kept you alive. Today, it keeps you scrolling. Discipline feels unnatural because it delays gratification. It demands discomfort now for a payoff later, and your brain doesn't naturally prioritize later. It prioritizes now, so you fight yourself. One side wants long-term meaning, the other wants short-term relief. And every day becomes a negotiation. But what if the problem isn't your willpower? What if you've been trying to force discipline the wrong way, treating your brain like an enemy instead of understanding how to work with it? What if discipline isn't about pushing harder, but about rewiring the game entirely? Because once you understand what your brain actually responds to, what it fears, what it seeks, what it avoids, you can stop fighting it, and you can start using it. But to do that, you first need to understand why your mind resists discipline in the first place. The resistance you feel toward discipline isn't random. It's neurological. Your brain is not designed for achievement. It is designed for survival. For most of human history, conserving energy meant staying alive. Effort was expensive. Risk was dangerous. The body and brain evolved to favor what felt immediately rewarding and avoid what felt uncertain or painful. That wiring still runs your behavior, even if your modern threat is a workout, a business plan, or a difficult conversation. Neuroscience makes this even clearer. Your brain runs on dopamine, not as a reward chemical, but as a motivation signal. Dopamine spikes when something promises immediate pleasure or relief. Scrolling, sugar, entertainment, novelty. These are fast rewards. They require little effort and deliver instant stimulation. Discipline offers something different. Delayed reward. And delayed reward feels abstract to the primitive parts of your mind. There is no immediate dopamine spike for going to the gym today. No instant neurological celebration for studying instead of relaxing. The reward is distant, uncertain, future-based. So your brain does what it has always done. It chooses what feels safe and rewarding now. Carl Jung once spoke about the tension between the conscious will and the unconscious drive. You may consciously choose growth, but unconsciously, you are pulled toward comfort. The unconscious doesn't care about your 5-year vision. It cares about reducing tension in the present moment. This creates internal conflict. You sit down to work and suddenly feel restless. You commit to waking up early and feel unusually tired. You decide to be consistent, and everything inside you seeks escape. It's not weakness. It's biology defending equilibrium. Your brain loves familiarity. It interprets routine comfort as safety. Discipline disrupts that safety. It introduces uncertainty, strain, and delayed payoff. So your mind reframes effort as danger, or at least as unnecessary stress. Over time, this creates a pattern. You associate discipline with struggle, and struggle with avoidance. And here is the deeper psychological trap. Every time you give in to comfort, your brain rewards you with relief. That relief strengthens the habit of avoidance. The more you escape discomfort, the more sensitive you become to it. This is how resistance grows. But if discipline feels unnatural because of your wiring, then perhaps the solution is not more force. Perhaps it's strategy. The unseen consequences. When discipline feels unnatural, the damage doesn't appear immediately. It accumulates quietly. You don't wake up one day as a failure. You drift. You delay small tasks. You skip minor commitments. You negotiate with yourself, just enough to stay comfortable. And because each decision feels insignificant, you don't notice the pattern forming. But your brain does. Every time you choose comfort over commitment, you reinforce a neural pathway. The brain learns through repetition. What you repeat becomes easier. What you avoid becomes heavier. This is called reinforcement learning. The relief you feel after procrastinating isn't harmless. It teaches your brain that escape equals safety. Over time, discomfort feels more threatening than it actually is. Then something subtle happens. Your confidence erodes. Not because you lack ability, but because you stop trusting your own word. You say you'll do something, and you don't. You promise yourself change, and you delay it. The gap between intention and action widens. And that gap becomes identity. I'm not disciplined. I can't stay consistent. I always quit. These aren't facts. They're narratives formed by repeated behavior. Cognitive psychology calls this the self-fulfilling loop. When your actions don't align with your goals, your mind adjusts your identity to match your behavior. Instead of seeing procrastination as a temporary habit, you see it as who you are. That belief becomes heavier than the original task. On a societal level, this pattern is amplified. We live in an environment engineered for instant gratification. Algorithms reward distraction. Convenience is everywhere. Discomfort is optional. So discipline becomes rare, not because people are incapable, but because resistance is constantly rewarded. And here's the urgency. The longer you associate discipline with pain and avoidance with relief, the harder discipline becomes. The brain strengthens whatever pathway you feed it, which means if nothing changes, the cycle tightens. But here's the shift. If your brain can be trained to resist discipline, it can also be trained to crave it. The breakthrough doesn't begin with more willpower. It begins with reframing discipline entirely. Stop treating discipline as punishment. Your brain resists what feels threatening, so instead of forcing it into extreme effort, shrink the resistance. Make discipline so small it feels almost effortless. Instead of work out for an hour, start with 5 minutes. Instead of write a chapter, write 1 paragraph. Instead of wake up at 5 a.m., wake up 20 minutes earlier. Why? Because action creates dopamine too, but only after momentum begins. The hardest part isn't the task, it's the start. Psychologists call this the progress loop. When you complete even a tiny disciplined action, your brain registers progress. Progress produces satisfaction. Satisfaction produces motivation. You are not tricking your brain with force. You are feeding it evidence. The second shift is identity-based discipline. Don't say, I have to work out. See, I am becoming someone who doesn't skip. When behavior aligns with identity, resistance weakens. The brain prefers consistency. If you see yourself as disciplined, your actions begin to follow. And finally, detach discipline from emotion. You will not always feel motivated. You will not always feel inspired. Waiting for motivation is another form of avoidance. Discipline is not about intensity. It's about repetition. And repetition rewires the brain. But this isn't just about productivity. It's about something deeper. Here's the truth. Most people never realize. Your brain is not your enemy. It is simply loyal to whatever you repeatedly prove to it. If you prove that discomfort leads to escape, it will protect you from discomfort. If you prove that effort leads to small wins, it will begin to seek effort. Discipline is not a personality trait. It is a trained association. The reason some people seem naturally disciplined is not because they love suffering. It's because their brain has learned that discipline equals identity, progress, and reward. Over time, what once felt painful became familiar. And what is familiar feels safe. You are not fighting laziness. You are fighting wiring, and wiring can change. Neuroplasticity means your brain reshapes itself around repeated behavior. Every time you choose action over avoidance, even in the smallest way, you are carving a new pathway. At first, discipline feels unnatural. Then it feels neutral. Eventually, it feels normal. And once it feels normal, it no longer requires force. The ultimate shift is this. Stop asking how to force yourself to be disciplined. Start asking how to make disciplined behavior the easiest version of you to access. Because the version of you you repeat becomes you. Become as you. And once your brain learns that growth is safe, it will stop resisting. It will begin to cooperate.